let's talk about some sensible gun control right quick. And what that means to me, plain and simple, no manufacturer will ever be allowed to sell a firearm to any government employee, any government agency, any government associate that supports disarming their citizens, not only in the United States, but globally, because an armed citizenry is the only thing standing between all of the things that we're already aware of. We don't need to rehash that. We already know. And I get to looking just here recently at the blatant, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Look at these poor people in North Carolina and Tennessee, where the government, the people that work for you, your employees, the people there for you you're not going to convince me any different that they haven't been directly impeding the relief that those people need who've lost everything. This is the worst experience they've ever had in their lives and the worst experience they will have for the rest of their lives. This same government wants to disarm you. We have this idea that here in the United States, we live in a free country. Well, go to some BLM land, and everybody knows that you're allowed to shoot on BLM land. You're allowed. What do you mean you're allowed to do something on land that you freaking own? That's your freaking land. And they're shutting these down because trash and, junk left everywhere. And don't get me wrong, if you leave a bunch of trash on public land, which means my land, your land, our land that we freaking own, if you leave trash out there, you're an asshole. But just the sheer nerve that they have to say that you're not allowed to do that on your land? What gave anybody the impression that they ever even had the authority to tell you that? Of course, if you leave, your brass or your trash or your junk vehicles on BLM land, of course you're an asshole. We already know that, so don't come at me talking about how I'm an asshole. Of course I'm going to pick that stuff up. I'm going to pick up other stuff that I see as well. But what gives the government, any branch of the government, the idea that they can tell you that what you can and can't do on land that you own? I gotta get a drink of water, man. I'm irritated this morning. There's a ton. I could go for hours talking about this. And kicking my tripod everywhere. And then we look at all of this money that we're sending to Ukraine. All of this money that we're sending to Israel. And what do we get? We don't get jack shit. We get nothing. And people think that this is okay. People are convinced that Russia is going to steamroll all of Europe. Well, you know what? Europe sat around waiting on the United States to fix its problems long enough. Maybe that's their problem. Maybe we need to mind our own damn business. Maybe we need to fix our own house. That's a novel idea, and I know it's crazy that somebody would be an extremist enough to think that. And this stupid election coming up, the media it doesn't matter. You're not any better because you've been watching Fox or CNN or MSNBC or whatever. Old media is dead, and the media that is actually given good information, it's people talking to a sideways smartphone just like this. If it weren't for influencers and TikTokers and YouTubers and all of that stuff, we would have never ever realized everything that was going on, back with the Bundy Ranch. we would have never seen the truth about what was going on with the summer of love. We would have never seen the truth, the blatant, intentional destruction of the ability for us to help our neighbors with this, Hurricane Helene stuff in North Carolina and Nashville. It is we, the people, us, have become the independent and reliable media. It's people running podcasts. One of the best, most current and up-to-date news sources I've seen is freaking TikTok, man. And they're wanting to ban TikTok. Tell me, why are they wanting to ban TikTok? Go ahead. I'll wait. Whenever Fox, CNN, MSNBC, all of them start singing from the same sheet of music, that can only mean one thing. It means they're scared. They know that they're dying. Tell me, who has more influence? The top person that you see on Fox News, the top person, was it Rachel Maddow? Or is it Ben Shapiro? Is it Joe Rogan? Who has more influence? Who has a bigger following? Who's more trusted? The old media is dead. It's in its death throes. The old broadcast, it's time for it to go. That's it. It's time for it to go. We, you know what? We had a good relationship. We cared a lot about each other. We had a lot of trust in each other until somebody else came along that was willing to show us the truth. So we got to cut you loose. It was great while we knew each other, but I'm sorry, old media, you're out. You're a shill for the government. And I almost don't feel like it's almost like calling it government is, that implies that they're doing our will in some way. It's more like a regime. And it doesn't matter what side you're on, right? It doesn't freaking matter. Chuck Schumer, terrible person. Lindsey Graham, terrible, terrible human. This Miss Cackles and the potato, do I have to say any more? But you've got yourself convinced that the great orange man Trumpkin is going to get the band back together and save everything you got. Everything's going to be good. Well, here's the deal. It's not. He's not going to fix it. Let's pretend, hold on for a second. Let's pretend that we were able to elect like straight up Ron Paul libertarians across the board, right? For several terms in a row. That old establishment program is still there. And don't you make one mistake. The establishment politicians are absolutely in it together. They'll hash it out on CNN and they'll get all of these. What in the world? There's a critter down here, and I don't know what it is. But if I find it, I'll show y'all. But these establishment politicians, they hash it out. They tear each other to pieces. Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC and, Bullard or whatever her name is, and all of these politicians, they tear each other to pieces while the camera's looking at them. But you know what? When all that's said and done and the cameras are off and there's that private cocktail bar just a few short paces from Capitol Hill, they're having a drink together. They're asking about how their friends are. How's your family? I heard your uncle was sick. Is he doing okay? They're best of friends. They get along perfectly. Because without somebody mad at the other side, there's nobody left to defend you. They need each other, and they feed off of each other without opposing sides, without the dialectic crap, the bullshit. They're nothing. because keeping you and I arguing with each other is what keeps them going. It's almost like, fighting chickens, or the WCW Hulk Hogan WrestleMania, where we all think it's real. See, the two fighting chickens, they hate each other. One from this side, one from this side. And their handlers are going to take them and rile them up, and they're going to agitate them and get them as mad as they can. They're going to let them loose and clash. They're going to just absolutely destroy each other. But you know what? The ones that handled them, the guy who put on the event, is going to make a profit no matter what. Do you think the NFL cares whether the Cowboys beat New York? They don't care. They make a profit anyway. Do you think Jerry Jones cares? No. They're just happy that you're distracted by the sports ball. The media can't control what you think, but they can control what you think about. And it's time to ready yourself. Things are going to go down the tube. All these distractions going on. Did you hear about the massive flooding that happened in Roswell, New Mexico? When was the last time you heard about the 2 hurricanes that hit Florida? The news cycle's already gone. Have you heard about the ban on DJI drones? Maybe if you watch, if you leave your TV on Fox or CNN or something like that, maybe you've heard about it. But here's the deal. You remember back in the early 2000s when all they had to do was attach the word terrorism to something? And, oh my God, 9/11 can't ever happen again. And, and they could pass any law that they wanted. Well, that's the way it is now, except all they have to do is say, China's spying. Russia is spying. It's a spy tool. That's the new buzzword to take every right you have. And most of you, maybe, well, not you guys, but most of the world just absolutely, just completely missed that point. Just blows my mind. They completely missed that entire point. Why? Why? Why is it that when we know the Wall Street Journal, we know CNN lies about almost everything that they tell us, why do we think they're telling the truth about how a drone is spying on you? What do you think the phone is that you're doing, that you're watching this on right now? Do you think that's spying on you? Because it is. It's spying on you by the Chinese government, your government, and our government, and the Chinese government are probably sharing that information back and forth. And hey, you help me out, I'll help you out. Don't believe all the hype, Is there a place for privacy? Yes. Do you need to be doing things in a non-observable way? Abso-freaking-lutely. But just recognize when you're being lied to. And that doesn't mean everything they say is a lie. If they say the sky is blue, that doesn't automatically mean that they're lying. And most of the lies that they put forth have a bit of truth nestled in them. That's a fact. There is a bit of truth nestled in every lie. But understand the bias that you're being fed. Everybody has bias. I have bias. Don't not trust anything I say. Verify everything I say. Find some reliable sources of information. Like I said, TikTok. There is so much bullshit on TikTok. It is unbelievable. But if you're not a freaking idiot, you can go through and kind of deduct what you can and can't trust. So take the time to do that. What about skills? You need to start building your skills, because why do you think the skilled trades are dying? There was a targeted campaign to convince people of, whenever I'm the older end of a millennial. Whenever I grew up, we were told that if we did anything, that working with our hands, we would starve to death. That's just, you can't do that. You got to go to college. You don't want to do manual labor. You don't want to do blue collar work. They told generations of us exactly that. You don't want to work in a factory. They accomplished their goal. They killed off any knowledge of trades, skills, learning how to do things yourself. They killed off learning how to grow food. Why? Why would they do that? Well, it's an extra step in the control process. The F in communism stands for food. Think about that. That's fair. So why would they not want you to do that? Because then they lose an element of control over you. But who cares what they say? Do what you want. Do what you want. You don't need permission to do almost anything in the world. You want proof of that? Look at Elon Musk. He is a man that I don't agree with everything he does, but he absolutely has zero concept of what it means when somebody tells him no. Zero concept of the meaning of that. So when somebody tells you no, does that actually mean no? Does it mean no only if you do it in this sort of a way? Your HOA says you can't, grow food. Does that mean no, you can't do it? You have to have specifically, either Zoysia, Bermuda, or St. Augustine grass cut at such and such length? Or, how far does that actually go? Because there's always a way to work within the system, just enough to find out how to exploit that system. And that's your job. It's not anybody else's job. It's your job to figure out how you can exploit that system to help your family, to help your loved ones, to help your friends, your network. That's another thing that they're trying to shut down right now, is actual real live networks, social groups. And they're not making it illegal to do it. They're just making it uncomfortable to do it. And not necessarily making it uncomfortable, but just making it so easy. There's a helicopter flying over me somewhere. Apologize for the noise. They're just making it so easy to interact only with online groups that it becomes awkward to interact with people, face to face. There's nothing wrong with going to your neighbor and buying a dozen eggs. There's nothing wrong with going to your neighbor and giving them, not even selling it to them, but giving them a dozen eggs, helping each other out. You want to know what it's going to look like if the balloon really freaking goes up? Look at what happened in, with the hurricane. We learned a lot of lessons from that. People are going to help each other out. Government is going to try to stop that from happening. And the people, depending on the area and depending on the mindset that they form now, are going to tell them to go screw. And they're not going to have any choice but to obey that order. They're going to have to listen to the people when the people tell them to go screw. But here's the thing. If you're not in a position where you can take care of yourself well enough that you can help other people, they've got you, man. They've got you. They've got you right exactly where they want it. They wanted you dependent. You don't have the ability to take care of yourself for the next 2 weeks. So it's either take the federal help with the federal problems, or what? Or what? If 10% of the population of the United States had the ability to produce their own income, to make 5% of their own food, and increase their freedom by just the same amount of a small percent, we wouldn't have disasters anymore. We would have storms. they wouldn't be disasters. Now, don't get me wrong. Now and then something terrible is going to happen. We wouldn't need FEMA. We wouldn't need any of that stuff. We wouldn't have a problem with 82nd Airborne being told that they can't go in and help. There would be no need to have a National Guard. So do everything you can to build that for yourselves. And while you're at it, try to help build that for your neighbor on this side, your neighbor on that side, the person that you know at work. Spread that message. Get it out to as many people as you can, because we as people, citizens, I was going to say Americans, it doesn't matter what country the citizen is from, we have a responsibility to make ourselves more resilient. All right, guys. Till next time, y'all be safe.